and welcome to Riffs on Writing, where we answer your writing and publishing questions in 5 minutes or less. I'm Caroline Topperman.
I'm Andy Cumbo.
And today we're talking about truth versus fact.
Yeah. So when I was in grad school for creative nonfiction, this was the topic, right? What is truth in your writing and what is fact in your writing? So that was about the time James Fry's Million Little Pieces came out, which is a book that was first pitched as a memoir, as a novel, sorry, and then it wasn't interesting enough as a novel, so then he pitched it as a memoir, but it was actually largely fictitious. And so that launched all these conversations. And so I believe that you should be as accurate factually as you can be, but the more important thing is that you tell your truth in what you write. What do you think of that, Caroline?
No, I agree. And I feel like you're always treading this fine line with all of that too, because it needs to be interesting, right? Like you can't just like throw too many facts at people, because they will get bored, because when you're writing, you want people to disappear into your work and you want them to become emotionally involved. So one of the tricks that I do is I use recordings of my father quite a bit, and or letters that people have written. And so what I do is I tell my reader, I'm honest with my reader. I think that that's the most important part, is to be honest with your reader when you're giving a fact, something that can actually be discovered, that they can look up, versus this is what happened. And I think actually that makes it more interesting too, because that's how we live. Yeah. But what I try to do is I try to then frame the truth in the facts, and try to have both of that, of what my truth was at the time, what my memories were. And it's funny, my sister read my book recently, and she said that she liked it. That wasn't a problem. But she said that her comment was, it's funny how differently I remember some of the things than you do.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's a great book called The Myth of Solid Ground by David Ulin that talks about earthquake culture. It's nonfiction in California. It's fascinating. But the whole opening, sorry, spoiler alert, is him being in the 1989 Loma Prieta earthquake, right? And being at a friend's house and having the experience. And then you get to the end of the introduction, he says, I wasn't there. Like that, I wasn't in the earthquake. But for him, the truth of the experience was it had been so visceral to have these places he loved and knew, and the people he loved and knew affected by this, that it felt like he was there. And that's the difference between truth and fact, right? So one of the reasons we bring this up is because it is a question you have to consider when you are looking at who is going to read your book before you publish it.
Yes.
Because if I hand my brother a book about my childhood, for example, his experience of that is going to be so different, just because we're very different people and he saw things differently. He's younger, they're just different dynamics at play. But the book is my story. It's my truth, not his. And so while occasionally when my mother was alive, I would ask her for clarification on facts, I didn't want her take. I just wanted the facts. And then if the facts were different than what I remembered, that became part of the story, because that's interesting. So just be cautious about who you let read before you publish.
I think we'll leave it on that note.
Fair.
All right. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave them for us. And if there's a topic you'd like us to cover, don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you.
Bye.